Welcome to today's presentation. I am a corporate pleb, and this is How to Corporate. Today we'll be reviewing the role of sales and what that role actually is. We'll also review how to succeed if you find yourself in a sales role. Sales is what keeps the lights on. Sales is what feeds all the people at a given business. New sales, upsells, fresh bookings, it keeps the whole factory line moving. If business wasn't ushered in the door by a sales rep, then nothing else would happen at the company. Sales is the eyes, ears, and functional appendages shoving money into the corporate mouth. It is the single most vital thing a company can have in place outside of product. In the same way that armies march on their stomachs, corporations exist due to sales. More important than what sales is would be who. Who is a sales rep? Well, you no doubt have an idea in your head. This idea is your stereotypical concept of a salesperson, and it breaks down in two main styles. You have the professional salesperson, tall, fit, beautiful, and commanding with exceptional curb appeal. They're informative. They speak with authority and confidence. They're able to drive a deal home without pushing the hard sell. They smell of fine leather, aged bourbon, expensive fragrance, and quality. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the smell of coffee breath and ashtrays. The sleazy salesperson. Flatly unattractive, old and decidedly unappealing on sight. A parody of the power salesperson. They're wearing a loud suit made from cheap material. They use a bully approach in selling with smoke and mirrors and a liberal amount of bait and switch. The sleazy salesperson will be clumsily pushing you to buy cheap products with see-through psychological tactics and are generally unpleasant to be around. Now, you know these two types of salespeople because at one point or another, we have all run into each of these types. There's truth in this stereotype, and both of these salespeople exist out in the world in droves. In fact, these two types are endgame examples of what a sales rep ultimately shakes out as. The end of the road of a sales rep as a profession is expressing their craft as either the sleazeball or the professional. This is why we all universally have the same stereotypical concepts of a sales rep in our heads. You might be thinking that sales reps also come in less extreme examples, and while it is true that most people in a sales rep position are milder versions of these two ends of a small spectrum, the reality is that all sales reps lean in one of these directions. The more experienced and mature a rep is, we'll see them parking it at one end or the other of this spectrum. Sales reps are always either some version of smoothly pro or sourly sleazy. Why are we so reductive with sales reps? What does this profession have two sides of a coin to instead of being just a large assortment of different types of professionals? Why are there really just two types of sales reps when you boil it down, the good rep and the bad rep? It's because we're romantic about sales as a concept. Sales reps are a professional mainstay. There isn't always a developer in a business. There isn't always a line worker. There isn't always a staff physician, but there is always a sales rep. All businesses will have a salesperson. Because of this, salespeople turn into caricatures. The person isn't important themselves, it's the role they fulfill. Sales can be done well or poor, but it will be done in all business. Thus, two archetypes. And coupled with the notion of two archetypes is the idea that salespeople are born into the role. You never hear about people being a born barista or a born shipping clerk. but you hear born salesman or born salesperson all the time as a term. So why do we see a romantic aspect in salespeople? Why are they such a mainstay in all business? It's because their role is that vital. A salesperson can save or ruin a company with one presentation. It's hard to not be romantic about a singular role that can make or break a business. In answering the who in sales, it's key to acknowledge that while there are natural personalities that lend well to the role, and while some are indeed born into it, most people are not born salespeople. Most are not overtly sleazy or professional. Most salespeople are just people who are in a sales role. What I'm getting at here is that there's a factor of intimidation when getting into a sales role if you are a common corporate pleb. It's seen as an exclusive group, and if you're not in it from birth, you're not invited. But like any role, you needn't fit in before you're in it. Skill in sales is developed. It simply takes a willingness to learn and regular practice. Over time, anyone can become a good salesperson. Salespeople are made. Don't be scared off if you don't fit into the mold you have in your head of a professional or sleazy sales rep. Most salespeople find themselves in sales and feel out of place through their entire careers selling. They just end up hiding it well. You, a lower level pleb coming into a sales role, need not feel terrified. You simply need to roll with it. To be fair, sales is a tough gig. There is nothing easy about it. If you think it looks easy, then you have simply witnessed a salesperson doing a good job. They wanted you to think it looked easy. And if your takeaway was that it's simple to do, then you fell for their act. Sales is a composite role. It is marketing, theatrics, sleight of hand, gentle persuasion, coupled with opportunistic hard pushes and an understanding of the product being sold from front to back in a way almost no one else at the company can conceptualize. And that is just the part in front of the client. Before it even gets there, sales is managing a kitchen with 20 cooks all sticking their spoons into a dish that they have no idea how to create and offering their thoughts when they knew nothing about it. Sales is a very difficult balance between internal politicking and client-facing behavior, and most salespeople, most of them, are not good at this balancing act. If done well, the sale happens and everybody gets to eat. If done poorly, which is most of the time, a sales rep will simply fumble through their static talk track and hide behind a banner of "I did what I could." Between these two ends of the performance spectrum, absolute knowledge of product versus knowing just enough to get by is where salespeople are forged. What type you will be is up to you. As a pleb, if you have aspirations of climbing the ladder and no connections to have comfy seats just gifted to you, sales is a role that can earn you a spot on a higher rung of the ladder. If it's in you to develop this skill, it can pay out in the long run. So the overall idea here is that sales as a concept, as a role, it's a pretty romantic role. A lot of people look at it with intimidation. As a pleb, you will probably be subjected to it rather than get to choose the role. But if you find yourself in it, you simply need to roll with it, develop the skills which really boil down to making sure that you speak clearly, understand your product, and aren't terrified to get in front of a client to hawk your wares. So as a pleb, if you're a low level person, as is my audience here, the idea is you can take a sales role and actually craft something better than what you've been given as just a standard low level position as a pleb in the corporate world. Next time, we'll discuss what to do when you're actually in a sales role and find yourself in front of clients selling your product. Thank you for joining me. Please come back and explore the corporate world from the standpoint of a common worker pleb at any time. See you soon.